Welcome to AboutFACE Theatre presents 5 Questions With, and today's guest, Emily Bohannon. Emily is a playwright, screenwriter, and actress, originally from Sandersville, Georgia. She studied playwriting at Juilliard under the direction of Marsha and Chris Durang, and was a Rockwell Scholar at the Einhorn School of Performing Arts, where she studied with Tanya Barfield, Cusi, Cram, and Keith Bunin, among others. Her plays have been presented at the Lark, the American Academy of Dramatic Art, and Broadway On Demand, and she's been a judge at the NEWvember New Plays Festival. In 2021, her play, The Romantic Movement, was the winner of the Lanford New American Play Festival. Emily, you're very welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So good to have you. So Emily, we're just going to start off with a question about how you got started. Like what play or experience first got you into theater?
It's really strange because I grew up in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. But my first memory of plays was reading them in antique Victorian school books. Ooh. They had these little plays, and my parents bought and sold out of print books. And so I had all of these little plays for school children. And I have my first memory writing one of these plays when I was about 5 or 6 years old, but I don't think I had ever seen live theater other than the Christmas pageant at church. My first memory, though, of seeing a play, I was in maybe 2nd or 3rd grade, about 8 or 9, and there was a touring production of a play about, I believe it was about environmental awareness, but all of the characters were these trees, and each tree had the character you might imagine for that tree. The willow was very willowy, the personalities matched. And so I'd like to think that there are some of the seeds of my work in that they are very character driven, but there is always a bit of awareness of a bigger social political landscape in them. So I think it's very influential, that tree play.
Love it.
Well, speaking of influential then, besides the tree play, what's a great play that you love and why?
Oh, so many. The one that comes to mind sort of in this vein is Night Mother by Marsha for many, many reasons. I think that it is the first play that I ever read by a woman. I have a very clear memory of reading it my freshman year at the University of Georgia, sitting on the sofa in my dorm room on a Friday night, and it just blew me away. And I love the play's economy. It does not start a minute before the main action of the play starts. You really just jump in there, and it doesn't end a moment after that question has been resolved. And so in every single line, every single moment is on that conflict between the two main characters. And each of them has a really, really strong desire. When I like to think of plays as being in a boxing ring, or rooms that we're trapped in along with the characters that we can't leave. And this is one of those rooms that neither woman can leave until she gets what she wants. And so that's really satisfying to me. It's all the things that a play really uniquely is that no other medium can quite capture in the same way. I like that it takes a topic which seems very cut and dry, which is suicide, but it really gives us insight into why someone might want to do that. It's really kind of the first time I feel like I understood clearly why someone would take their own life. And so the fact that it can, when you think about plays as being very strong arguments for and against something, that is one of those plays that there is a very strong argument for and against. And both of them are equally strong, in as a theatricalized by the characters and in the arguments that are made. But that said, the characters are very, very specific. Their behavior is so idiosyncratic. We know who they are. They don't feel like these talking heads of an issue. They are real people. And just 2 wonderful roles for older women, which I love. And of course, written by Marsha, who I didn't know when I read it the first time when I was 18, but who would eventually become one of my teachers and mentors at Juilliard.
Well, that's definitely, that leads us into the next question, because that's definitely something unexpected that happened. But is there any, anything you could tell us about, you know, in your theatrical life that maybe turned out differently than you expected it to?
I mean, how long have you got?
8 hours, Emily, just go for it.
Like everything. The answer to that is everything. It could be very tempting to talk to you about something I thought was going to be great that turned out really horribly. But the thing is that my experience overwhelmingly has been that the things that I think are going to happen in a certain way end up being better. And an example of this is my play Water on the Moon had a big workshop. It felt really ready for production. And in 2011, a company came to me and said, we want to produce it. And I mean, we'd done a million meetings. We'd had design talks. You know, they'd even had the marketing person making the marketing materials. It was like we were about to announce it. And then they decided that they didn't really have the budget for it and pulled it. And so, you know, I thought this was supposed to be my first big New York debut. It was going to be off Broadway. It was going to be so great. And then it didn't happen. And that play was not produced until 2018. So I had gotten to the point where I just thought, oh, this play is never going to get produced. I'm never going to see it. But when we sat down for rehearsal for our first read through, and it was at the American Academy of Dramatic Art. So the actors were college age students and people in their 20s who are the age of the characters in the play. Like this is the age of people who need to be doing it. The actors all said, this is the moment that we are living in right now, because it is about that moment a group of friends sort of breaks apart and goes their own separate ways. And they were 2 weeks away from graduating when we did the play. And so I had this full body chill of feeling down to my toes that this was the exact right moment, the perfect moment for this play to be produced. And I remember having the thought, if the timing is right on this, then just maybe the timing of all the other things in my life, none of which ever seem to work out when or how I want them to, maybe everything else is also right on time.
Wow.
So that's, I've felt myself in these moments of like, it didn't happen when I thought it would, because that when it did happen was so perfect.
Wow, beautiful.
That's great. That's a great life lesson. So Emily, you were talking earlier about how you were saying about Night Mother is a play that like it does something that only theater could do. So I know you also work in screenwriting and things like this. So what is it that makes you keep coming back to theater? What moves you? What excites you about theater?
I mean, again, how long have you got, Paul? I mean, other than thing number one, just being the people, the theater is where I've built my life. It is my community. All the people I aspire to be like work in the theater. And it is, as an audience member, if we take my professional involvement out of it, it is the medium that I most like to consume. I feel most emotionally engaged. I really like the structure and the form. I like the flexibility of it and the mindset of experimentation, which are all things that I really love as a writer as well. And well, one point at Juilliard, Doug Wright came in to teach us one day, and someone asked him the same question about, what's the difference between writing for theater and film? And he gave him the best answer I've ever heard, which is, if you're writing a film set in 1945 Poland and you have the Chiron, Poland, 1945, every single detail better be Poland in 1945. And if it's not, the audience is gonna go, that's not right. In the theater, someone can walk out holding a sign that says Poland 1945, and anything that happens after that, the audience will accept. Someone could come out in a chicken costume. The audience is willing to expand their imagination and accept that this is Poland 1945. And the question is, which audience do you want to write for? And so I still find that, but both from a structure and craft and form perspective, I enjoy writing plays more. I enjoy just the theatrical experiments that presented themselves. I could spend all day talking about these questions of story and what are the best ways to tell stories, which of course we have in all the other mediums, which I also love writing for. But I do want to write for that audience that will go for the chicken costume in Poland in 1945. I am that audience.
That's a great marketing thing. You want to know who your audience is? That's great. That's that person. Like chicken play in Poland 1945. Put it down.
Yeah. Brilliant. So you've already mentioned some life lessons that you have learned in the theater. So are there any tools that you've used in the theater that you have found useful in the rest of your life?
So many. I thought about this question, and the first immediate response is always resilience, because there's a lot of bouncing back. But if you take that top layer off, for me, it's really this dogged belief in myself, because that is, I think, the only thing that is required for a successful life in the theater. Ultimately, there's talent, there's work ethic, but especially as a playwright, you get so many moments of rejection and so many no's, but you have to be the one who carries the belief in your material and your worlds, and you have to be the advocate for your characters. And that just requires, on this fundamental level, for you to say, I believe in my talent, I believe in my contribution. And I think that is one of the single most important lessons that I've continually learned. I wouldn't say I'm there, I believe. It's a process. There's days I believe and days I don't, but in everything from, any kind of work you do to saying, I believe that I am worth, moving and trying something new. I believe that I am worth, being loved. All of these things, there is just this fundamental belief in yourself and your abilities that the theater has definitely drawn out of me and challenged in me in a way nothing else has.
That's fabulous. That's
Fantastic.
Really great.
Yeah.
Well, Emily, this has been so great.
Yeah.
So just as a bonus, can you tell us anything about what you're working on at the moment?
There's some things I can and some things I can't. Which NDAs? No, so I'm definitely right now, again, very fortunate that my play, The Romantic Movement, just won the Lanford Wilson, and which is a brand new flick play festival at Southeast Missouri State University, which is geared towards expanding the canon of work for college-aged students. This is something I'm so passionate about. It's so important to create more work that's age appropriate, so that we're preparing actors to enter the profession, having worked on roles they will actually play. So my reward is that the play will get its world premiere at Southeast Missouri State next spring of 2022. So I'm working on some rewrites to send it back and start doing that work. I also just wrote a brand new play that I essentially have written in a notebook, and I need to finish typing it out and then get 2 actresses to come and read it for me. And I'll, be very nice and buy them all the good coffee. I have a play a film that's in development that I've got to do page 1 rewrite of, that the producer's kind of like, okay, where is it? So gotta finish out my summer working on that. And then I have a couple of TV projects in development that I'm just doing in the research stage for, doing a lot of research. Yeah.
Excellent. Busy.
Busy. One thing at a time.
Oh, Emily, thank you so very much. It's just delightful talking to you and hearing your insights about theater. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. Such a pleasure always to commune with you too.
And thank you, of course, to the audience for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the interview. And if you did, please like below and follow AboutFACE and share, because we believe theater makes life better. So we'll see you next time on AboutFACE Theater Presents 5 Questions With.
If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to us on YouTube like us on Facebook, and share. Thanks for watching.